Hello, everybody, and welcome to Music Industry Insights Worldwide. Today we've got Brad with us. Hi, Brad. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm not too bad, thank you. And thank you so much for coming along. It's such a pleasure to have you, not once, but twice, because we've already spoken before. So tell the listeners a little bit more about yourself, where you're from, and what you do.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you so much for having me. Yes, I've been in the music industry for 20 plus years. I started out as a booking agent
Yeah,
with a company out of Charlotte, North Carolina,
here you
here
go.
in the United States.
Yeah.
And for 8.5 years, all I did was book tours. I worked with about 30 to 35 bands a year,
Mhm.
all national and international touring acts.
Yeah.
And so I worked with over 200 bands at that role, and then I started Stewart Entertainment Agency in 2014. I'm located in Nashville, Tennessee, and we've been here since that time. And yeah, so I started, getting into management and booking and publishing and consulting and mentorship and
A&R and strategic decisions and partnerships. How does that?
correct.
Tell us a little bit more about that. I want to know more.
Yeah, so I had one of my clients at the previous agency asked me to be his business manager, and when you get into a manager role, you are handling every single facet and revenue stream that comes along with that.
Mhm.
And it was kind of trial by fire. Even though I had a good booking background, I kind of jumped off into the deep end with that. And
My horse now.
that
The year of the
what's
fire.
that?
It's the year of the fire horse right now. So we've got one right behind us. My best friend.
There you go. Very
Yeah,
nice. Very nice.
he's a
That's
fire
right.
horse.
And so, I really started looking at strategic partnerships
Mhm.
once I jumped into management. I'd been doing it from a booking standpoint, but when you're doing it from a management standpoint, it opens up so many different things. So, yeah, and I really found that is my superpower. That is my strength is
All got superpowers, Brad, and that's what I love, right? It's about finding the right people, but it's like a jigsaw puzzle. You've got to put the pieces together, right?
That's right.
So
That's
can you
right.
tell me a bit more about how do you develop those skills that you can find the right people in the right places? And we're not all perfect. We're
Yes.
far from it half the time. We try our best.
Right.
We're not always the best.
Yeah, it's I've always kind of thought of myself and a lot of people in our industry, we kind of work like real estate agents
Okay.
for the most part.
I see. Mhm.
Like our job is to find the win-win-win situation for everybody.
Okay.
If one party, is getting taken for a ride or getting screwed over, then it's not a good deal. And like while you can sell your house for sale by owner, and you can do that, but you're not going to get the volume that you're going to get. It's not going to, you're not going to get as many people looking at your house, and you're not going to get a
Right.
third party negotiating for you and getting you more
Right.
money. And
It's the looks, it's the aesthetics, it's the personality, it's the fixtures. I've watched a few people from the United States come to the UK, turn a home, a nice standard traditional home, into a US home. And then they're
right,
wondering why they can't sell the home, because that doesn't fit in the territory that we're in right now, right? You want a
right,
little home, you go to the US and you build a beautiful home there. You want a
yeah,
UK home, then you go to the UK and you build a beautiful home there. But it has to be authentic and
yeah.
representative of the communities we live in. So, how do you manage that as an estate agent and someone not just an estate agent, but a real estate person that has equity and money to invest?
So the way my brain works is I'm constantly looking for inefficiencies.
Okay, well, that's me.
So, yeah. So, like, as a manager, my job is to look at the top line, which is like the gross, but I'm also looking at the bottom line, which is the net and
Yeah,
the expenses. So, you can't just do one of the two, you have to do both of them at the same time. Or at least that's what the good managers do. Anyway.
great. However, finding those people that are actually speaking the truth, that have the skills, the knowledge, and the expertise, how would you go around finding someone as skilled as yourself and that you could trust, that you could rely on? Because I think that's the issue too.
Yes. It's very hard to find, honest, trustworthy, hardworking, and accountable people in any industry, but especially in the music
In the
industry.
creative industries.
And my recommendation when I'm doing my consulting with my clients is to make sure that you are keeping up with all of your data because facts don't lie. And, you have to approach anyone on your team, whether or it could be outside of your team, even if it's a talent buyer,
Mhm.
they look at you like an investment. Like, we all love music and we love what it does for us and all the soft, aspects of it. But when it
Mhm.
comes down to it, it's really about the numbers. And if you're not keeping up with that or leveraging that data, it's really hard to get the progress that you're looking for. So that is my first recommendation.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of these bands are really bad about, they'll go do a tour and then, they'll be like, oh, we made a bunch of money. It's like, okay, well, what did you net off of all that? And they're like, I don't know.
Exactly. And that's part of the problem, right? It's also about how are you going to find the people that you trust that have the right skills that are going to leverage you in the right positions, but also make sure that you're not being taken advantage of. Because I think legalities have a lot to do with it, right? And being savvy and understand the market.
Yeah, absolutely. It's yes, and that's why everything that we do, everything through contracts, we're very, um, I don't know, we're very methodical and specific. And, we try to make sure that everybody, you want to have those contracts in place because it just eliminates any guesswork
Yeah.
and it shows that you're professional and you're able to articulate
No,
to your team. What's that?
I would always say I'm professional, but I do try my best. No,
Well, I mean,
I'm a professional, but I'm a creative, so I don't always look
yeah,
at myself in that light. Do you know what I mean?
I do. I do. Yeah, you want to be able to articulate who's doing what, when, and for how long, and all that is super important.
Yeah,
To be able to, if you're not doing it yourself, which you can't do everything, so you have to come up with the systems and the infrastructure and kind of things that are going to keep happening. And if you don't develop systems around them, then you're really just working inefficiently. And that's what I really try to help artists with as much as I can.
also working against a system that's not always built for us, but we're also
Right.
trying to find a voice and be recognized, and also build community from the ground up, which is very
Right.
difficult. But how do you think
Yep.
AI has changed some of that and put it into a narrative that you're being force fed stuff you don't always want to see or hear?
Right. Yeah. It, so that's one reason why when we bring an artist on, we really want to do consulting with you
Okay.
because we want to help you get everything together first.
Yeah,
Because we need to look at what assets you have and what your positioning is, and like, do you have a business plan? Do you understand your ideal client profiles, not only for your fans but for the buyers that you're trying? So there's like a B2C and a B2B model, and a lot of artists don't. They're not intentional about that, and we want to help them flush that out.
absolutely. They don't understand the industry they're in. And it's a creative industry, it's a relationship built industry, but also it's about revenue. Now, you've built over £20 million of artist driven revenue in the industry. What has been that strategic mistake that artists make when they're dealing with managers? Because that is mind blowing. That's a big amount of money.
Yes, yes, yeah. So some of every artist is different, and if there were a silver bullet kind of model for this, then I would be a super rich person.
Wouldn't we all?
Um, but I'm not. And you know, it's there isn't a one, you know, plan that fits all,
Yeah.
because everyone's at different stages of their career. Everyone has different assets or team members. They have different budgets. They're, you know, at different stages of the product life cycle. And that's why that consulting is worth so much money, because we need to get all of that together to help you. And if you don't have all that, you might be busy, but it doesn't mean you're going towards your target. You might just be spinning around and going in circles.
That's how I feel. That's how I feel. And now we're going to step on to the next question, which is great, which I love. Now, you've had the partnership with Netflix, NASCAR, Discovery, a lot of the channels that I love watching, and also that are innovative and fast paced. How do
Yes.
you keep up with that? And also, what makes you brand ready?
What makes the brand ready?
Yeah.
Yeah. Great questions. So, you know, going back to your strategic partnership question, it kind of ties in with this one. So, you know, I had an artist that was more in that kind of country rock vein. And I was like, you know, if we could tap into the NASCAR crowd for you,
Yeah.
that would be huge. And they're like, absolutely. So I made that a goal, and we wanted to get, you know, some placements with them for licensing for like the commercials and anything that was related to that. So that's part of finding your tribe, so to speak, when we do that consulting and we kind of define who your ideal client profile is. We want to know, where do they hang out? What are their values? How much money do they make? Where are they located? All of that kind of stuff. And when you can put your finger on the pulse of that, you're tapping into something real, and you're not wasting your time, your effort, and your money just
That's so,
spraying and praying.
and that's how marketing works.
Correct.
So, can you explain to listeners how important is marketing when it comes to brands, reaching the people you want to reach, but in an
Yes.
authentic and cost efficient way? Do you want to explain that?
Uh, Another great question. Yeah. So, you know, there's a difference in marketing and branding, and a lot of artists are not familiar or hip to what that is. Okay. So, marketing is kind of a push strategy where you're trying to push certain things about what you're doing,
Yeah.
you know,
Mhm.
where a brand is pulling, you know, it's what you do without all of that.
Yeah.
You know, it's how do people feel about your product, and, you know, uh, how they engage with your message,
Yeah.
and all. And that's not something you push on someone. That's something that they want to join and to
Can't
come
fake
to.
that either, right? You can't fake that kind of relationship. It has to be authentic and people
Yes,
can tell, right? So it's
that's
a
right.
very relationship based environment.
It is. And, you know, I've always told my clients, marketing is the reason why a lot of crappy bands do make it. And it's why a lot of great bands don't make it.
Yeah.
You know, if you have $1 million to put behind an album,
Ooh.
you can be subpar and I can make you famous, you know.
Well, is it the
And
money or is it the talent? And this is another thing I was going to ask you. Sorry to interrupt you on that. Is it money? Is it talent? Or is it a bit of both? Because you need a bit of talent, right?
it's both. But, you know, think about how many great bands you hear on the radio and you're like, man, I
Well,
really don't like that, you know, or
I was like, how did they
yeah,
get to a number one spot? Mr. Blockhead,
yeah. You
Take
start to think,
I could name loads of them. I'm like, how the hell did they get number one hit in the UK? Are you mad? I was like, what?
you know, it is, you know. And so my answer to that is, if you have enough money, anything can get you to the charts and can work. You know, like, you can, it's a lot of smoke and mirrors in our industry. You
Okay.
know, you really can. You can kind of fake it till you make it. The branding, though, is the staying power. Yeah. You know, if you want to stay there for a long time, that's when your talent comes in, you
Okay.
know. So the money can get you there in the short term, but your brand keeps you there for the long term, and your talent, in my opinion.
Yeah, thanks, Brad. But also, what is it in the short term that people can learn from the process that they need to take forward into the future?
I think having a plan for me is critical. You have to be consistent. So once you put together a plan
Yeah,
and you know what you're going to do for the next 6 months, 12 months, 18, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, once you are able to articulate that and to
yeah.
put that into paper and you know what you want to do and you kind of set up those milestones, then it's just about execution.
Mhm.
And a lot of artists might be good at like planning stuff, but they're bad at execution.
Honestly,
Um, you
I'm good
know,
at great. I'm so it's about working on your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, and your threats. It's
that's right.
SWOT analysis, right? That's old school.
Correct.
So, do we still use that now? And is there anything we could use extra on top of that that could make sure that we stay on top of this issue?
Yes. So I still use SWOT analysis myself. It's an important, critical part of that business plan. There's a lot, there's a, one of, I think going back to your original question, one of the biggest things that you can do is eliminate distractions.
That's hard. That's why.
It's it's hard, and a lot of people don't want to do that. For me, if it's not in my calendar, it doesn't get done. So being deliberate about putting certain things in my calendar, saying no to meetings that don't,
I do that. I do all of that, but it's still hard to get a slot in my calendar.
it
My
is,
that busy.
but sometimes it's like it could be eliminating TV time or video game. Like we don't realize how much time we spend on doom scrolling and all that. It's like you could have sent out like 30 emails in the time that you spent that hour doom scrolling on Facebook.
I don't really do social media much, but how has that changed? You're a go-to market strategist, and you've got three pillars. How does that change through social media? But not just that, but through trust and authenticity.
Right. Yes. So we haven't quite gotten into like my new software and everything, but it is one of the main tools that I'm super excited to bring to the market. And I appreciate you helping spread the word about this. But we have created a revolutionary, first of its kind software
Okay.
specifically built for independent artists, bands, musicians, and DJs.
Bravo! About time. What do
And I really think that this is going to change a lot of people's lives for the better.
Yeah,
It's called Music Mogul AI, and you can go to musicmogulai.com to check it out.
yeah.
But it is basically a software designed around the independent artist so that you can run your own business.
Okay.
And it is my workflows and my database and the email nurturing sequences and all of that distilled into one place, where you can run your business yourself without depending on anyone else. And, we even have consulting and mentorship services in addition to that software
Yeah,
because we're still in a relationships business. And,
absolutely.
you know, AI's AI is great and it can do a lot of the heavy lifting for that repetitive task, but you still need a human element to it. And when you can get that from someone who's done this for 20 plus years
I know.
and you have access to that with that, for me, that is the future of the music business. And that's what we've developed today.
And thank you so much for doing that as well, because you've got over 20 years experience. You're not just that, but you've also launched the SaaS setup, which is the
Yes.
biggest mindset shifts, moving through agencies, executives, but also tech founders. Now, that's innovative. Tell me more about that.
Yeah. So, Music Mogul AI is the software as a service
Yeah.
model, and we have completely flipped the entire model on its head.
Okay.
As an agency owner and as a business manager, I have seen the numbers underneath the hood from the agency side, from the artist side, and that traditional agency model, in my opinion, is broken. It's inefficient. There's conflicts of interest, and it just doesn't work.
It doesn't work. And it's not even supporting the talent pipeline. It doesn't support innovation. It's not supporting people through that, process they need to go through to get that support, the help, but also the mentorship. So
That's
it's
right.
really important.
Yeah, yeah, and that's what we wanted to offer. So our system does not take commissions. We don't collect deposits or anything like that. Ours is a subscription model. You pay for the software, you're able to run the software, and you collect all of the
You
money.
own all the details and all the data as well. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes.
Nice.
Yep. So if you ever leave the software, you can export your data
Right.
and you'll have that all nice and neat for you to use or to give to an agent or a label or a manager. It's going to help you organize all that. So
But
you
you
have
need that,
leverage.
right? You need those, those contacts. But also, if you want to sign up, how could people find out more about you, how to sign up, and your platform?
Yeah. So musicmogulai.com is where you want to go.
Yeah.
And we have a little sign up sheet that you answer some questions. We're not just taking on, this is not like a mass market thing that we're doing.
Yeah.
We're only taking on a certain amount of artists with this because we want to make sure that every artist that, joins
Yeah.
is a success story.
Okay.
We want testimonials. We want case studies. We want to make sure that every single person that is using this is able to hit those goals and to break through that glass ceiling that they're probably hitting. And so, there are 3 agents in the software. There's a booking agent, a marketing agent, and a management agent.
Cool.
But this is a human in the loop model. This is not sending out slop or bot kind of stuff. You actually get to approve all of the activity before it ever goes out. So it's never going to send something out that is targeting the wrong person or doesn't sound like your tone.
But it's tied to you and your personality and what you represent.
Correct. And the more you use it, the better it gets at, learning your tone and all of that as well.
I
So,
love that. And how
but
do you
yeah, it's
because you're using AI right now, Brad. Sorry to interrupt you, but how
yeah.
does that work with your personality? Do you have to train that over time? How do they know how you are as an artist or a person or a persona? How do they know?
Well, so great question. So a lot of it comes from my professional background, and like we have fed it
Yeah.
a lot of the workflows and sequences and how long the messaging needs to be. And we've kind of told it all of that. But you're able to go in and put your own little spin on it, and tweaks with it so that you can make it your own. But
Okay.
it works like a third party for you. It doesn't just come now. You can pick where if you want it to come from just your Gmail, you can, but it's designed to act like a third party, just like a real estate agent. It's gonna, third party can always get you more
Real
money
estate,
than you can get for yourself.
real estate agents take a fee. What's your fee? Tell us more on that. Fill us in.
Oh, say that again.
They take a fee generally. Anyone that you're
Right.
working with takes a fee. What are the fees?
Correct.
Fill us in on that.
Yeah. So ours is just a subscription. We don't,
Okay.
we're not getting a commission. You know, our system is completely flipping that model upside down, and it's saying, look, that commission model doesn't work. There's conflicts of interest with agencies, on a roster, and there's no loyalty or anything like this system. It only works for you and your band.
That is the problem. And you touched on it. It's loyalty and trust. How can we
Yeah.
rebuild that, Brad? Because I think that's super important, especially for the UK and US. We've got a very special relationship. We need to make sure that stays. How can we make sure that stays in place? We don't lose offering in the industry that we have.
Yeah, when I was building this, I was thinking, if all it did was just stayed loyal to the person that's using it,
Yeah.
man, that would be worth 10, 20, $30,000 a year just for that, even if it did nothing else, and it does so much more, which I have recently created a cost benefit analysis
Okay.
on everything that we offer, and I will be releasing that very soon. It is a very in-depth, eye-opening report on the traditional model. And I even basically said, look, let's just say you were paying yourself $10 an hour,
Which
like,
I didn't get 0 cents. 0 cents an hour. In fact, I'm volunteering and supporting.
right,
I'm building a
right.
community. So it's zero.
I mean, but like, let's just say you were making minimum wage and you were doing all of this stuff. And for what we provide, anyway, it's insane. Very eye-opening report, and I'd be happy to share it with you guys. I haven't even shared it with the public yet because this
Yeah.
is brand new.
uh,
What's that?
Yeah, please do share it with us. That
Okay.
and the
Yeah, but
about
it's
distribution versus radio growth. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
about radio and distribution.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that again comes with our strategic partnerships. If you don't have a distributor, if you don't have anyone doing publishing, if you want someone to do tour publicity support, there's a lot of things that a human still needs to do. And, that's where our strategic partnerships come inside our dashboard of the software is it like an affiliate list and affiliate partners that we
Yeah.
have and
Yeah.
strategic partners that we have that we've already spent hundreds of thousands of dollars with that we've already vetted. We can tell you who to contact for certain things. We already, so like we can save you that time, that effort, that money. We know these people are good to work with. They've not screwed us over.
And that's part of the problem is it's that trust. It's
Yeah.
also knowing where you feel safe and how do you feel safe. Because
Yeah.
things happen to all sorts of different people and sometimes they're not safe. How can we make sure people feel safe?
Yeah. It's, you have to be aware of your surroundings, of course. And,
Mhm.
you know, I try to tell artists that, you have to assume that everyone is an opportunist. And if they're not, then you kind of, then you win, but you have to know that everybody's looking for something. They're not looking to do it for free necessarily.
I do it all for free. I don't know when I've been paid yet. And it's not about being paid, it's about
Yeah.
passion, it's about dedication, it's about
Yeah.
consistency, but it's also about being authentic and building from the bottom up. So that's
That's right.
what's so important is I think we're lacking that now. Back in the day, that's what it used to be. That's what the creative arts used to be. It's not that anymore. It's middle class, upper echelon people that've got cash, just throw it up the wall. And it's all right, don't worry about it. It
Yeah.
doesn't work. It's never been like that. It doesn't work.
Yeah. It's, I've always told artists to be true to yourself. Don't
Mm.
let anyone try and pull you outside of you being you. There's only one of you. You just need to tell more people about how great you are.
Well,
Um,
I think you have to prove it too, but there's a lot of
yes,
noise. But also find your unique selling point, which is also really important in marketing. Tell us a little bit more about unique selling points and how important that is nowadays, but not in a fake way, an authentic way.
that's right. Yeah, you're on the money with that.
I wouldn't say so.
It's extremely important to find in marketing. We call it a unique selling proposition,
Yes.
and you want to, figure out, like when I'm doing my consulting,
Yeah.
I always ask my clients, what do you what emotions do you want your fans to feel when they're buying the ticket, when they're at the show, when they're leaving your show?
Mhm.
Like, what do you want them to leave with? How do you want them to remember you? When they're walking out of that venue, what do you want them to feel? What do you want them to say?
It's part of an experience, right? And they want to feel part of your journey. They want to
That's right.
feel part of it, not, oh, I'm just on the side and I'm a fan. No, I'm in
Right.
it. I'm with it. I support it. Right.
Yeah. And they want your lyrics, they feel like you're talking about them.
Mm.
that's that connection. We all kind of live vicariously through the people that are on stage. And if you're not having fun on stage, by the way,
Correct.
no one else is having fun.
Yeah, it did.
So,
And I don't mind being on stage, but you know what it is? Nowadays, it's not just about being on stage. Your personality you need to do, social media you need to do, an artist, podcast host, design, this, fashion, makeup, hair. I've got to do everything. There's no team, not one person. This is
yeah,
all Saskia on Saskia's own. And I've done
right,
it all by myself. Not one person, not one person has walked alongside me and said, I'm going to support you. I'm going to help you because they want money. And I haven't got no money because I do it for free.
right.
You see how that works?
Well,
But it still works.
well,
But
yeah,
a manager's not going to come along because you're not getting paid. An agent's not going to come along, but you're not getting any money. But you're doing better than everybody else. Why? Because you're doing it for the goodness of God and for what you
yeah,
believe in. That's the way.
right.
That's how it should be.
It is, and as you're building a community, and when you're able to build community around what you're doing,
Yeah.
yes, it's hard to kind of get that ball rolling at first, but
Mhm.
once it starts rolling, then you kind of get over that hump, and things eventually start coming back to you.
I hope so. It's magnetic, shall we say? It's like the universe, it's like the planets. It's about alignment, it's about finding the right people. It takes time, it takes dedication, it takes trust, but it also takes good people to support you.
Yeah,
And that's why I did this show, because I want to support good people like yourself, Brad.
yeah, absolutely. I shared something on my Facebook page the other day, and
Yeah,
I'm in Nashville, and I like country, but it's not
I do.
my it's not
I
it's
love
not my thing necessarily, you know. But there's an article I posted about Lainey Wilson. I
mm,
don't know if you're familiar with her,
I
but
am. Yes, I am.
she lived in a trailer on Music Row here in Nashville for almost a decade,
Hmm. Trying to make it.
trying to make it.
Yeah.
And everybody told her she wasn't this, she wasn't that, and she
On
just
by.
kept going.
Just like walking on by. Remember that
Right.
Wow tune, Walk On By?
That's right.
You
That's
better.
right.
So,
And like that's an extraordinary thing to do, to
mm,
stay committed over and over and over again, and having thick skin and just believing in yourself.
it reminds me of the Good Samaritan. That's always
Yeah,
there. That stops
it's a
by and
great movie.
I'm going to help.
Yeah,
I'm,
yeah,
I'm going to
and
give you some wine. I'm going to wrap you up in this bit of olive oil. I'm going to help you because you're suffering and you're in pain. But you know what? Sometimes we've got to go through the pain to get the gain. you know, I
that's
understand
right.
it's hard. I try.
And yeah, so that's my advice: is stick with it. Believe in yourself, invest in yourself. You can never go wrong investing in yourself, learning a new skill. It's always going to pay more than buying something tangible.
And it's worth more than money can buy anyway.
It
It's
is.
personal growth. It's opening your mind and it's learning how to live with others and
Yeah.
supporting others. That's the
Yeah.
beauty.
That took me, that was a really hard lesson that I had to learn, because I like to think I can do everything myself. But, I eventually said, I need a mentor. I need to pay someone else for their 20, 30, 40,000 hours
Yeah.
so that I can fast track myself. I
I
don't have all the time in the world.
money for that. I can just be me and I can ask people for help. That's going to take longer.
Right.
You know what I
It
mean?
is. It is. And, that was very hard for me because I like to think I can do it all. And
Don't we all? I'm
I,
just
I, yeah,
trust me. Someone has to keep me in check too, because otherwise I think I could do it all myself. But
yeah, just learning. There's a lot of super, super smart people out there. And, like there's even now classes on AI through like Harvard and MIT and Google and all this stuff that will give you certifications, and they are free.
okay. Yeah, I know a few of those. Do you want to shout out one of them? Actually, before we go, got 1 minute left. Do you want to leave
Yes.
your podcast details and also the contact information, please?
Yes. So the best way to get in touch with me is on LinkedIn. I would say Music Mogul AI is definitely the main part, site that I like to use to communicate with everyone. That is my baby. That's what I'm focused on right now. And yeah, we have a great team built, to serve our clients. And
Serve your country
yeah,
too. And don't forget your country.
yes,
And God
yep,
bless
yep.
you. Thank you so, so much. Time's going to run out. It's been such a great time to have you again, Brad. I can't wait to see you again soon.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
Pleasure.